Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over a little bit of a rig breakdown that we did for a Black History Month project where we had these shots over the subject and the camera was spinning at the same time. So we used a Ronin RS3 Pro to do this in combination with a Sony FX3 and some vintage lenses. So we're gonna kind of break it down in our studio to show you exactly how I rigged it and kind of my thought process on getting a shot that wouldn't just be a normal top down, something a little bit more dynamic that the director wanted. So we're gonna do it exactly how we did it on the day, and then we're gonna show you some other budget-friendly methods that you could do just to get the ball rolling with this, because I know that you need a lot of gear to do that. So again, we're just gonna be using the Sony FX3 with a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. On the day we used I believe a 35 millimeter prime Zeiss Mark IIIs, as well as like a 24 or 18, whatever we had in the kit, and they were just light enough to work. So before we even get into the rig breakdown, I am going to be going over how I like to rig up my Sony FX3 on a Ronin RS3 Pro. I know that there is the Ronin 4 now and a bunch of different models which upgrade motors, but this still works for our system and we love to use it. So I just have the normal, I believe this is the small rig half cage, and then more importantly I have a NATO rail on top. And then what I'm going to use is this small V-lock plate, and I'm going to put that on top, and this is going to be for my transmitter. And you can use a Teradek, Hollyland, whatever you have, it really doesn't matter. But when it comes to what we're going to be using for this one, we're just going to be using this Hollyland one here. And then on the back, I just have an MPF adapter to a V-lock, and this was 3D printed in-house. If you're interested, let us know in the comments below. So I'm just gonna put that on top, and it's just the most easiest and convenient place to put it. I could put it on the side, but it's just gonna build out my camera package a little too much. I already have my plate on here, so I can easily put this on now. And that's good to go. I already know that I'm gonna need an ND filter. And then what else we got with our Ronin RS3 is this Tilta plate, and this is a breakout plate to run all of our accessories. So I'm just gonna get a small 50 watt battery. I like these ones for like Came TV makes. Also Small Rig makes a lot of good 99 as well as 50 watts. I love to use these for my Ronin rig, especially just because they're so lightweight, and then they're gonna last the whole, I could get this on. They're just so lightweight, and they're gonna last the whole entire day for the production. And then we're gonna run a small D-tap to DC cable, and then just kind of loop this around here and screw that in. So now we have power to our Hollyland. And then I'm gonna use a small HDMI cable and just kind of wrap it around the base here. And this is it. This is gonna be my Ronin rig. So I'm just gonna quickly balance this so this will properly work. And I can plug that back in, and then we're good to go. And then right now we're just powering off the battery grip. So this is good to go if I was just doing something with this gimbal. And then now what we're gonna do is just do a quick calibration. So, and while that is going, I'm going to open up the DJI Ronin app. Okay, so that's what we're gonna open, and this is going to be my remote control. So a lot of times you guys have seen on the channel that I've used the remote control with an Xbox controller. You can do that as well. But just because that we're gonna be rotating the camera on this axis, I just need the app, and that's totally fine. So it sees it, and then I'm gonna screen record this guys for you as well, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So Ronin app, and then I just connect to my device, perfect. And then I'm going to go to the create and then use the virtual joystick. And then what we're looking here is just to use the pan function. So I already have my tilt and my roll set to 0, just so I don't screw up anything when I'm actually moving the camera. So this is just set to that. But what we actually need to do is adjust the tilt so it's pointing directly up. That's a little way too much. So I'm just gonna dial that down a little bit so I can get a little fine control. As you can see, it's very ever so slightly moving, and that's about vertical. And then, so I'm gonna turn my tilt off now, and then whatever my pan speed is, and now we have basically a head that is spinning around in a circle, and then I can adjust the speed to whatever I want. right? Obviously we're not completely parallel with the ground, so it's a little bit off. And then also something that you notice is that it's not exactly in the center either. So you won't get a perfect rotation, but it really depends on what you're doing. For us, we didn't really need that perfect rotation, so we didn't really care. So this is everything set up on the ground, and now we're gonna move to our setup so we can get this overhead and pointing down. So I'm just going to set this to sleep with the app again. I'll stop my screen recording. And then everything is good to go here. So the next thing that we're gonna move into is actually how I did this on the day, and I use this little thing made by Tilta. You can buy this separately if you want, but I actually got this in my Tilta Hydra kit when I used to do a lot of car stuff. I know this is a little outdated now for what they have, but this is basically allows you to mount this on a 1/4, 20, 3/8, even RE locking, and you can power it via a 2-pin LEMO. So I have that guy here. So this is a D-tap to 2-pin LEMO, and this is gonna connect to here. And then I also have this little V-mount clamp that I also got from KMTV. You can find these on Amazon. Any really Chinese or import brand is gonna have them. And this is just gonna allow us to mount a V-mount wherever we want, conveniently and cleanly, because we just don't wanna tape it up there. So let's move over to where we're gonna put our camera. Obviously, if you have a camera cart, this is a luxury because you can move to any location you want and just build there. But what we're moving to here, as you can already see, we have set up is a classic goalpost setup. So goalpost setups are used a lot of the time for overhead rigs, hanging fabrics, just doing so many different things. And basically you have 2 stands and then a T-bar going across, so it looks like a goalpost. And for here, we're doing it a little bit unconventionally, because usually with goalposts, you have these grid clamps or goalpost clamps, and these are going into a 2K receiver. Right now, we have the same goalpost clamps, and they're going into a baby pin. This just works for us because we don't currently own a lot of 2K receivers. We usually rent that stuff. So we just buy the clamps and then just rent the stands because they're ridiculously expensive, and that's something that we're gonna be investing into the future. So that's what I recommend when even buying any gear when it comes to clamps and stuff like that. We just don't have the storage space to house maybe 3 2K stands, roller stands, or something like that. We are just going with our kit that we have, and then we have our little accessories, and then we'll rent stands just because they're so cheap. Right, so we have this set up. And then in the middle here, we have 2 6-foot pipes, and then we have a pipe joiner. So on the day, we didn't actually use a pipe joiner. I would kind of stay away from this if I was doing this on a professional set, but this is just to show you guys. I would rent 8-foot, 12-foot, 10-foot, whatever pipe that you can get, and then try to have the joint offset somewhere over here. So if example, I had a 10-foot pipe, and then I had another 6-foot, then the joint wouldn't be necessarily in the middle where all the weight is gonna go. This is gonna be fine for what we're doing, but just as something to let you guys know in the future. So now the goal is to put the Ronin on top of here, and we have to do that. So what I recommend to have in your kit is a bunch of different things, but I love to use Cardellini clamps. Don't make the mistake I did in buying a bunch of them at the same size. Get a bunch of different ones. These are, I believe, the 1-foot. There's 6-inch, 3-inch. You can get bunch of different ones. What we're gonna be utilizing is a nice little Mayfer clamp with a little spigot on it too. So that's what we're gonna screw our little guy into. This is a 1/4 20 thread, but this is, I believe, the ones that come with it have this hexagonal thing in it, which are super annoying and I don't like to use just because they're so finicky. So what I'm gonna actually find is a better spigot. We're just gonna take this little guy and then also just gonna get some vice grips so I can tighten this down safely. And the reason why I don't want to use this is because what we're dealing with here is just a little 1/4 20 thread, and this is going to be my mode of failure. If anything happens, this is going to snap. So I want to use something with a little bit more thickness to it, so I'm going to use that 3/8 thread, and this simply just goes into here. I press that button down hard enough, and then screw this down, so it's like 2 modes of safety. And then we are good to go. So what we're gonna do is now screw this guy in, and then we're just gonna, it's not exactly in the center, but it is going to work for what we're doing. And then I'm just gonna use this screw and this to tighten that down, and that's gonna be more than enough. But if you want this really in the center, I can loosen that screw and then line this up. and then we are good to go. All right, so let's put this on our pipe. And then I'm not gonna clamp on the pipe joiner, I'm just gonna clamp off to the side here, again, because all that force we don't want right there. And now we have our point that we can hang our gimbal off of. And then if you notice here, Tilta includes this little plate so that the connection here isn't just reliant on whatever DJI has to connect your battery grip to the actual gimbal itself. So now that we tested everything, this is good to come off, and everything is locked. Safely put that upside down. I might have to remove this. Nope, we're good. Just triple check it, that is good to go. Obviously this is pretty sketchy as is because I could just simply press that and that's gonna unblock. So we don't want anything to trigger that, especially when we're working over top of our talent. So luckily Tilta makes this little thing, and I believe it's metric. So I got my metric Allen keys here. Of course, make everything that is an Imperial World metric. Just gonna torque that down, and then we're good to go. Next thing, we're gonna try and power this, and this is where this little clamp comes in really handy. I like to always have my rigs and anything that I build clean and just super adaptable to anything that we want to go to, that I can even pre-build or take pictures of and send to anybody. So I literally bought this clamp for this production. So I put my 2-pin in, gonna grab a quick V-mount. Oh, there we go. Gonna show CameTV some love. Gonna use it on our gimbal as well as up here. 99 will do, it'll last an entire day if you have this powered on, so it's no problem. Then I'm gonna just plug into the deep tap port. There, I have this. And now we are good to go. So if I turn on the gimbal, it's gonna be automatically on underslung mode, so it's gonna freak out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is unlock this. Nope, that's the wrong unlock. There we go, unlock that. And swing it into the underslung mode, and then now power it on. Just in case I pull any cables or anything that something like that happens. Perfect, and we are good to go. So now, if I go back to my Ronin app and then go to my Ronin, we're connected, go to the create section, virtual joystick, and now I'm gonna turn my tilt on and tilt it down. Let's turn it up a bit so we can go a little faster here. Let's check my exposure first. Oh yeah, we're exposed. And then get this to as level as possible. So this is where the sensitivity really helps with the Ronin app, and then also if you just have like a GameCube control, sorry, not an Xbox or PlayStation controller. So that's about what we're looking for. And then now, because we already plugged this in, let's get the feed going as well, right? So we can pull it up on the production monitor. So again, we're using the same V-lock system here. Again, wooden camera makes great ones because they have the RE locking pins. I know that's not going anywhere. And then with our V-lock plate that we bought, plus that 3D printed part, it's good to go. So it's easy. So another thing that I always have in my kit, I have this little kind of grip crate, and this is one that I have generally a bunch of random stuff. Safety chains and these little eye bolts. So some of them are metric, some of them are standard, some of them are 3/8 and everything like that. So I like to have these so I can actually create a safety point here. So when we talk about safety chains and where we're gonna put this and where we're gonna put our mounting point, and when I look at the camera, this is on a gimbal, I know that we're pointing straight down and that puts a lot of pressure on the plate and everything like that. But I know that's securely locked in, and if that even fails, I know that there's another fail-safe because we're in a dovetail plate. The only thing that's gonna really fail is something around here. This whole thing drops. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna screw this little guy into here, and then I'm gonna run the chain through that. I'm gonna put it around top, and then you just don't want to clip this with the carabiner because if your talent is 1 foot below that, you want it to basically swing out of the way and not drop even further than swing out of the way. So what I'm gonna do is gonna rotate this around as many times as I can to make this a tight secured connection. So that's literally the amount of slack I can get from that if this is gonna fall, and it's gonna fall and swing out of the way and not really drop any bit further. But now with safety out of the way, we're good to go. I don't really even have to have this little guy here. I could have looped through this gap, or if I wanted to connect to the camera, this is generally why I have these if I'm doing anything overhead. So now I'm gonna get Charlie to put down the camera and we're gonna lift this up and see what the shot looks like. So now if we talk about this as a point of safety, I would never use C-stands to do an overhead goalpost like this. I would use combo stands, because with C-stands, as soon as you start putting weight that up high, your only feet are touching the ground at these 3 points that are so down low. There's no connection down here or even up here, and that's what usually like triple risers, double risers, bigger combo stands like that, their point of contact is usually up here. So that just gives you a better space. Because if I start wiggling this, as you can see, that's not the safest thing, but you know, this is filmmaking. We get it done with what we have, and this is just a little bare bones setup that I want to show you guys. So now that we have everything, and again, this limits yourself too, because you only can go up that really high, and then you start seeing C-stand legs, which you can easily cover with art. If we're in a situation like, again, we had the barber shop or something like that, and I've done this so many times with so many different other things, I can easily just put a chair here that covers the leg. And then obviously this is just the leg of our little production monitor, so I'm just gonna move that back. Now I'm gonna grab my phone, if I can find my phone, and we're still connected to the Ronin app, and we're still recording here. And then I'm just gonna center myself up. Good thing we don't see any bald spots. And then I'm gonna turn the tilt off, and then I'm gonna set this to like maybe, let's try 13. And now we're moving. And that is our overhead Ronin rig. And then what I did on the day is I shot this in multiple different speeds with slow shutter and without slow shutter, so you could get different effects, and it just gives you really cool perspective. And in the barbershop scene specifically, we shot everybody getting in and out of the chair with the same rotation, so it gave you kind of a jump in time with the same shot, so it didn't feel as dull. And then we can go in really any direction that we want. And then at this point, we can use this as a remote head. So I could turn my tilt on and then my roll on as well. And now I'm gonna tilt up, see what's going on in the studio. And that is it. So you kind of possibilities are really endless with this. And then I'm gonna get Charlie to bring this down, then show you guys how you can rig it without the tilter bracket and without a lot of the stuff. So with the equipment that you kind of have on hand already. So again, this is the ideal way. This is like the clean way that we can do it. But a lot of you aren't gonna have this piece. A lot of you aren't gonna have this either. So now let's figure out a solution that we can just use what we have on hand, which is going to be the Ronin grip as well as a little tripod grip. So let's disassemble this and bring my cart over. So I'm gonna lock it first. Take out the power, take off my safety chain. Take off on our little tripod pistol grip here. Great, so this is what usually everybody else is gonna have. So now let's figure out a way that we can set up the same rig. And then again, we're gonna need some clamps. You could do this with 2 Cardis, you could do this with 2 Mayfers, it really doesn't matter. I'm gonna use my preferred choice. I prefer Cardis just because they're a little bit more secure. And then basically, I'm gonna grip on this. Feels nice and good. So the thing that's gonna fail here is because I've owned these grips for so long, is that the adhesive between the metal and the rubber. And we've had multiple grips fail on us already just because we use them so much. So let's try the sideways method. Yeah, and it's just pulling on it. So I don't think that's the best solution to do that. So because this clamps a little bit differently, I feel like this will be a better solution. Yeah, that'll work. Kind of either or what you kind of have, but I just want to showcase with that. And the next thing is we'll need a point of contact on the tube. and this is going to clamp exactly like this. So there are a bunch of different style of these grip heads, and I actually prefer these newer ones for rigging specifically because first reason is because they have 2 mounting holes. So this lower mounting hole allows me to easily put this in a spigot and I can get grip on that no problem. And the second thing is that they have these teeth that lock in. Obviously it's not super convenient when you're trying to move lights or anything like that, but it's really convenient when you're trying to rig specific things and get really pinpoint accuracy when you're trying to really dial in what you're trying to do. So let's attach our Cardellini clamp. Again, you could do this with 2 Mafers. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a point to grip onto. So either way, you could go out this way or out towards here. And then just because of the way that this is gripping, it's gripping on the pipe here, I'm gonna want to put more of my weight on this side, not necessarily this side, because this will create more of a lever arm, and then it'll just want to twist itself out. So I'm gonna put it here. Tighten that. And now, I shouldn't do this with the entire camera on, so I'm gonna take the camera off. Get my little contraption here. Run into some clearance issues a little bit. Get this guy off. That guy's getting in the way, but it's no problem. And then I'm just gonna bring this up. Hopefully that doesn't interfere, so I'll go halfway. And the reason why I really like this one is because you can really crank down on it. There are different options for these Mafer clamps. There are the style handle where it's a little bit longer and it's the single one. Those are nice too. These are ones that are just a little quicker. We have both styles though. And then now, I can bring in this guy, check where my contacts are. Come on. Oh, there we go. And then lock it in. And this is good to go. I have the same control, I have the same clearance, everything's good to go. The only thing that's missing is some sort of safety chain. And again, I don't want to utilize whatever I had on here, but I can still utilize this because you can easily pick this up on Amazon. Now, there's nothing really to screw in here because my whole mode of failures that's gonna happen is this thing. I do not trust this little guy at all because it's just a simple lever and then that's gonna fall out. So yeah, I'm basically trying to connect to the gimbal, right? And there's no really access points. I could loop around this thing, but that's just gonna get twisted up and we're only gonna get maybe half a rotation, not even a full rotation. So I'm gonna utilize these little NATO rails. I know this isn't necessarily the best idea, but I can rely on that a lot more than what we have down here. And then this just gives me a little 1/4-20 mount to mount off of. Again, these are small things that you can pick up on Amazon rather than buying that whole unit. Just looking for little alternatives here because I know how expensive this stuff can get, even just if you're trying to do for one shot. If you're trying to just do for this for one shot, I wouldn't necessarily buy that tilted thing. I would buy these little small things because you can apply it to so many different other rigs and small little things as well. So I can't get a full loop on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go across and get this as tight as possible. And that's gonna be my best solution. Again, this is gives me kind of like an inch swinging down, which isn't ideal, but it will help obviously if something goes wrong. So pretty sturdy. I would trust this, no problem. Let's raise it up a bit, Charlie. The battery works as good as if it wasn't clamped. And I can go to the virtual joystick, turn on my tilt again, tilt down, and then we got the same exact shot with just different equipment. So turn my tilt off, and then let's actually turn this up to max, see how fast this goes. Whoa. But as you can see here, it's a lot more exaggerated that I'm not gonna get an exact top down, and this is just due to the balance with the tilt. So if I were to kind of visualize that with this basketball, and center this up in frame, and I'm rolling on the FX3, and then that's in the center line roughly if we just look at this production monitor, and then you can see that the rotation isn't perfect. So if you wanted to do that, actually let's try right now. I know the gimbal's gonna kind of freak out on me. I'm gonna plug that. And then what I'm looking to do is basically align the sensor with this point of rotation. So it's gonna be completely off balance actually. Charlie asked me a really important question is, where do I exactly know where the sensor is? I don't know. I do know on this plane because there's a little marking on the camera, and if I'm looking for like this plane, I'm just gonna put this up there and then kind of just center it up on the lens. And again, this is just going to be an estimate based off of that. But now if I rotate it, won't it do something weird? Yeah, because the offset is different. So I kind of have to guess based off of the screen where the center of the sensor is here, because I just tilted it up and it didn't do the thing that I was looking for. And then if I kind of go off this side here, I have to center it up on this axis. So this is just an experiment to see if this is even gonna work, which I doubt it will, just because we're way too heavy. So if I bring that over, yeah, that's about as I can bring it. So for this case, I'm gonna strip the camera down so I can get a perfect inline shot. Right. I know it's not ideal, I just need something with a lot more power if I was trying to do this like a Ronin 2, so I could add weights and balance it off in different directions. So now with all that weight, it still wants to tip, but let's see if it can handle it. Oh yeah, the motors are screaming at me right now. Oh yeah, it's not gonna like that. Yeah, so these are the limitations when it comes to rigs like this, just because it's not designed to do something like that, to have a perfectly aligned with the axis. If I had the perfect lens package, like a light vintage prime, maybe it might work, and just I added a bunch of counterweights in different places, probably would work. But this is just what we can do with the filmmaking gear that we had. If you were trying to do this on something bigger, like a Ronin 2 or like a Venice or something like that, you would have Mitchell plates, you would have overhead trusses and everything like that to achieve a shot like this. So filmmaking is changing because a lot of cinematographers are actually using Sony bodies or Red Komodos that you can put on small filmmaking gear like this that is considered prosumer, but these are used on professional sets all the time. I hope you guys enjoyed this rig breakdown. If you want to see more videos like this where I break down shots and show you exactly how we did them, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.